Would you leave a rotting leaf on your plant or would you cut it off? If you chose to cut off the rotten part, why? What's the point when that plant will inevitably die someday? Are you destroying that plant if you cut it off? What would be left without that leaf? Now imagine you are that plant. Would your answers still stay the same? Okay, bad analogy out of the way. I find myself asking, what's the point in doing things when none of it truly matters since I'm gonna die on this rock in space? Then I get stuck in that endless loop of bouncing between there is a point and there is no point. Like a little hamster running endlessly on a wheel, desperately wanting to get off. Specifically, this is my relationship with a lot of creative things. Now you may be thinking, how does this relate to the rotten leaf metaphor? Listen, I told you it was a bad analogy. It does end up coming back around, okay? Just give me some time. Now there's two sides to my stance on reasoning for doing things. There is no point. And I have a point. Let me explain. Art to me inherently has a point. You know, enjoyment or just the act of doing something without the pressure for it to have meaning beyond the meaning it brings in that moment is reason enough for me. However, with a lot of things in life, it's not a simple black and white definition. There's nuances, and this principle can get quote unquote muddied. For example, with making videos for me, this reason gets clouded a lot. I want it to be like this pure thing of like, oh, I don't care about the views, I'm just doing it for me. But I mean, I got a taste of like a little bit of internet clout. 15,000 views isn't that much, but hey, that's more than 5, so. And that was way more dopamine inducing than I could have ever imagined. And recognizing that I did enjoy seeing those numbers go up, kind of was like, ooh. It was like watching a baby take its first. Okay, maybe not a baby. It was, it was like watching a character on a show take that like first hit of like alcohol, and you can just imagine the spiral that's gonna come through their character arc. Because I wanted it to be like pure, you know, like oh I don't care about the views, but secretly deep down I wanted to not care, but also like be successful, which is kind of ironic. um, but this isn't meant to be like, oh my god, guys, I only get 200 views on my video. Sorry, okay, well my audio quality just went down. Sorry if you can hear that in the background, but yeah, it's not supposed to be like, you know, those artists on Instagram who are like, please, I spent 40 hours on this piece and it gets 2 views. I mean, no one's gonna see this, so it's just that, you know, you could have this very idealistic way of approaching life, but you know, the factors in life aren't as simple as they are on paper. So understanding just kind of why the views affected me also meant I had to really know the reason behind creating content. Was it just for fun, or do I secretly want that clout? And both can be true at the same time. But I had to reflect on my motivations to do things, and boy oh boy, that's not fun, really. Okay, my heat went down, so our quality's back up a little. But yeah, for some things like college, the point is obvious and ingrained in my little capitalist soul. For other things, though, specifically the ones that, you know, society has deemed to have no monetary value, like, you know, like doing hobbies that won't make you money. I'm not trying to sell my art, and I don't know, I kind of feel like it's a waste of time half the time. But yeah, so that made me have to do some unpacking to understand why I felt like that. Um, and when I'm saying that there's like no point in doing things, or it feels like there's no point, it's not always a nihilistic attempt to demean the act of doing that. Sometimes it is, like trying to make videos, sometimes that is nihilistic. But other times though, it's like, you know, there's no obvious motivation behind it, so it feels like a sense of resistance and empowerment against the society we live in. I spend time doing things that don't matter instead of the stuff that does matter, but the stuff that does matter doesn't matter to me because society makes it matter to me and I didn't assign that value to it. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm making art instead when I should be studying for my degree. That's also kind of a side of there's no point in doing something. Does that make sense? This led me to ask though, why does thinking about these things feel bad? Captain Obvious here, the fear of change. Yes, cliche, but I find comfort in stagnating. So when things do change, even if it's cyclical, like my relationship with art is, it's uncomfortable. It's kind of uncomfortable to realize distracting yourself doesn't ever fix anything, and then you realize you never critically thunked. you never, you haven't formed a cohesive thought since like COVID, and it's like you got woken up out of the matrix. Yeah, even if I push through my own feelings of discomfort, I kind of take a step back from, all my deep introspection, not like other girls, by the way. um, and, personal unpacking of my own feelings, and then I get hit with, it's not that deep. That doesn't feel great. Sure, I mean, it's kind of overkill to reflect this deeply on things, and maybe it is cringe. But if it's deep to me, maybe that's all that matters. If going that deep into things brings me value, would you argue and say it's a waste of my time? I mean, some people probably would, but thinking this way is always easier said than done. I mean, I say this now, like, it to be cringe is to be free, but when it's 2 a.m. and I've realized people from my real life have watched my videos, it's not so easy now, is it? Mm-mm. Now, I could never truly describe why this like loop of thoughts and thinking felt like I was doing all this work to just my audio quality end up in the same spots. But despite my loud heating, I saw this video on TikTok that woke me up from one of my doom scrolling trances, and it said, let me find it. What goes too long unchanged destroys itself. The forest is forever because it dies, and so it lives. Then a comment said, if you don't grow, you rot. And I was like, yeah. Hell yeah. This made me reflect on how pushing away these feelings towards, minor things was both constant and not happening. So I would do that, and then I'd reflect on it and be like, oh, it does matter. But it's a lot easier to say things matter than it is to actually put in the work to make them matter and feel meaningful. That I realized this way of thinking wasn't just like something I would get through, once this video is over. It's always gonna be a challenge of, oh my god, that's loud. Of going through having the complex nuances of life and your own kind of way of thinking be tested. One or the other won't ever fully exist in isolation, you know what I'm saying? Sure, I could think this positive and optimistic way of viewing things, but when put into practice, that's not always the case. I won't always echo those same thoughts, like when I can't draw for the 70th time this week, and like everything is not going my way this week. Classes are really hard, and I'm really tired, and I don't want to do anything that makes me feel good. It's a lot easier to say, "Oh my god, just pick up your pencil and draw." Like that's saying to someone who's depressed, be happy. You know what I'm saying? That I think I had this too idealistic way of viewing things, that thinking and reflecting could overcome the challenges and the ups and downs and the ebbs and flows that is just existing. And I think that's okay. I go through the ebbs and flows of feeling, doing, and reacting, but I think that's just part of the dying and rebirth we have to go through. That one TikTok made me go down like this rabbit hole of hope core TikTok. Another post that stuck with me is that there's literally nothing in nature that blooms all year long, so do not expect yourself to do so. Absolute cinema, if you're asking me. But yeah, these poetry and like philosophy and accounts on TikToks really kind of woke me up from my TikTok slop trance brain, you know? And I realized a lot of my conflict between points and no points and these arbitrarily philosophical reasonings was that I just expect myself to constantly be showing up in ways that aren't realistic. I expect all of my motivations to do things be this holier than thou reasoning of just wanting meaning for myself. I think it's okay to place some value on outside validation, not all of it, you know what I'm saying? But creating something in the hopes of other people relating and liking it, I think is okay. And it doesn't make you less of an artist. It doesn't make you bad. It doesn't make you this clout chaser. I mean, it could lead you there, but it doesn't automatically make you do that. So To me, that way of thinking would always make me feel like there's a piece of myself that is rotting. You know, because I'm a human and not this like character who can be, you know, this super idealistic, laugh in the face of defeat character all the time. I just felt like I'll never live up to that, and that's rotting. But cutting off those parts that felt rotten were too scary, and you know, part of you feels like it could become healthy again. It's just hard. It's hard to be a human, you know. Um, it's always harder to act on things. I could say something, but I don't always do that, you know? It's like having morals, but are you really gonna follow through on those morals when you're being tested, when it's like fight or flight, you know what I'm saying? It's easier to say and think, but it's harder to do consistently. That in itself can result in feeling like I'm rotting. You know, saying and never doing. But the rot to me is just an amalgamation of the complex relationship that comes with having expectations and ideals and promises and just being a human and never 100% living up to those all the time. So to answer my own question, I think sometimes you have to be able to discern when or when not that leaf is actually rotten. Sometimes there is true rot, and I might choose to cut off that part of the plant, even if it destroys it, and even if it changes. But sometimes it's not rotten, and your mind can deceive you. You know, not everything has to be this big epiphany. Um, Not everything has to lead to you asking why and finding something new about yourself. Sometimes it's just okay to exist with that quote unquote rotten part of yourself. But sometimes it might not be okay, and maybe you do have to change it off, you know? I don't really have any definitive reason or answer, but you know, another chance at tomorrow is okay. And if that involves rotting or non rotten leaves, I guess that's okay. What's rotten to you may not be rotten to another person, and only ourselves can really dictate how we see our own cycle of rotten growth. Yeah, sometimes even if they aren't rotten, maybe just cut a leaf or two off, change it up. This rotten leaf metaphor, I don't know, I kind of lost the plot, it's not perfect. But you get what me and these metaphorical leaves mean, right? I don't know. I don't know if I even get it. I think I'm just talking to talk. But yeah, thank you for listening to me. If you noticed the gap in my uploads and you still came back, thanks for that. I've been super busy with school, if you guys care. And honestly, I just didn't feel like making videos. It just didn't seem fun. And every time I did, I wanted to pull my hair out. And I thought maybe that's not a healthy thing to do. So, okay, bye.